Tonight, the so-called Freedom Convoy is set to make its way through the GTA.
If there are some protests, they may want to avoid certain areas of the highway.
A message from the OPP to expect delays as the convoy gets set to make its way through tomorrow en route to the nation's capital to protest the vaccine mandate for truckers. Plus,
I had a back bandage on for 3 months to try to close it because it was honestly big enough to put a pop can in.
The province's surgery backlog continues to grow, with many patients saying they're in pain and feeling forgotten. And with a little bit of help from the community, a popular Toronto restaurant is reopening its doors tonight after its patio was destroyed by last week's big winter storm. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. The OPP is warning drivers to expect delays as a convoy of truckers and their supporters make their way through the GTA tomorrow. Now, the so-called Freedom Convoy is on its way to Ottawa, where the protesters will be staging a demonstration on Parliament Hill this weekend, rallying against federal vaccine mandates. Dale Manukduk has more.
They are calling themselves the Freedom Convoy, and they will soon be passing through the GTA. Drivers are scheduled to gather at noon at Vaughan Mills Mall before heading east to Kingston around dawn. The final destination, Ottawa, where they plan to demand the federal government end the vaccine mandate for truckers crossing the Canada-US border. In a statement, the Ontario Trucking Association and president of the Canadian Trucking Alliance writes, "This regulation is not changing, so as an industry, we must adapt and comply with this mandate. The only way to cross the border in a commercial truck or any other vehicle is to get vaccinated."
At Fluke, we're just like the CTA. We support mandatory vaccines.
Fluke Transportation, which has been operating for over a century, delivering essential grocery products, has 150 drivers, all vaccinated.
It really isn't very much of a benefit because the United States would have to do the same thing. So to benefit the entire industry, Canada and the United States would have to rescind.
Meanwhile, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says applying vaccine mandates for cross-border transportation is ill-timed.
We seem to be pursuing a policy to inflict maximum pain on the economy and on families with incredibly limited potential benefits of this COVID measure.
The CFIB represents thousands of trucking companies, but its primary concern is the impact it might have on the supply chain, especially for businesses on the cusp of reopening.
If your restaurant has been closed, as it has been in the city of Toronto, on and off for the past 2 years, you desperately need to make sure that nothing's going wrong in being able to serve your customer.
The convoy is expected to cause travel delays. OPP have been in contact with the rally organizers,
Asking everyone that is participating in these types of activities to maintain lawful behavior, because as much as you are allowed to peacefully protest, we need to do this lawfully as well.
Ron Foxcroft also hopes it remains civil.
I think the pandemic has caused an erosion of respect, and I would like to see that recaptured again.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Thousands of people in Ontario have had their surgeries delayed due to the strain of COVID-19 on hospitals, and the backlog is continuing to grow. Many patients saying they're in pain and feeling forgotten by a government that is set to ease pandemic restrictions in just a few days. As Lorena Redekop explains, a group of surgeons is among those pleading with the province to restart elective surgeries.
Sabrina Worrell needs a procedure that's simple but would be life-changing.
This is ridiculous. This is a 5-minute surgery. This could have been done months ago.
A year ago, she had a quadruple bypass. The incision opened a month later, and the wound never properly closed.
It was honestly big enough to put a pop can in. Like, it was a massive wound.
A surgery to close her incision was supposed to happen last week, but was canceled. She says she's in pain.
Basically, every time I move, I can feel the wires because they keep ripping my skin. So even just doing basic everyday things like cooking dinner or doing the dishes, just it constantly pulls on it.
Earlier this month, the government stopped all non-urgent surgeries to protect the healthcare system as hospitals struggle with low staffing. Today, a group of surgeons published an open letter to the Premier in the Toronto Sun, urging him to restart those procedures. One oncology surgeon, not part of that group, says it's hard on her patients.
Having to watch them deal with that anxiety is pretty difficult at the moment.
She says at her hospital there is bed capacity, though staffing is a challenge.
But when we see that there's a disconnect between public health measures and when surgeries are allowed to go on, that creates a lot of frustrations.
As of next week, restaurants can open their doors again for indoor dining. Gyms and theaters can also reopen.
You also need to put a plan together to deal with the backlog surgeries. You can't just sweep these people under the carpet and pretend that they don't exist.
The health ministry directed us to comments from last week.
As you know, both hospitalizations and admissions to ICU are lagging indicators.
The health minister said the peak could still be a couple weeks away.
So as soon as we can see that the numbers are going down, both in terms of admissions to hospital and in terms of intensive care admissions, then we'll be able to get back on track.
You just have to cut the wires and sew it up.
Meanwhile, Worrell says without a surgery, not only is it hard on her and her family, she's costing the healthcare system. A couple times a week, she has to go in to have her bandage changed. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Brampton's mayor says the city is ready for the easing of restrictions expected on Monday. Patrick Brown says he believes the worst is behind us and there are brighter days ahead. But Peel's medical officer of health, Lawrence Lowe, is still urging caution.
The transmission of Omicron is beginning to slow in the region of Peel and Brampton. However, transmission levels remain high and hospital utilization also continues to remain high and will likely remain so for the next few weeks.
Dr. Lowe is urging residents to get their booster shots before next week's reopening, adding that Peel now has enough supply of both mRNA vaccines to boost all eligible residents. They're also opening up all public health vaccine clinics for walk-in appointments for anyone over the age of 5 who needs dose 1 or dose 2, and anyone over 50 who needs their third shot. The Bank of Canada has once again held its benchmark interest rate at 0.25%. Now, the so-called overnight rate that the banks charge each other for short-term loans has been at record lows since March of 2020. But the central bank is making it very clear interest rates will be going up to combat inflation.
Canadians should expect a rising path for interest rates. And third, while reopening an economy after repeated waves of COVID is complicated, Canadians can be confident that the Bank of Canada will control inflation.
Inflation is running at a 30-year high of 4.8% in Canada, and the bank expects it to surpass 5% before coming back down in the second half of this year. It's expected the bank will increase its trend-setting rate when it makes its next announcement on March 2nd. The central bank says Canada's economy has recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic, but the impact of the Omicron variant remains uncertain. Any increase in the Bank of Canada rate will likely lead to rate increases for variable rate mortgages, lines of credit, and car loans. It's anticipated multiple rate hikes are on the way this year, and that's putting even more pressure on GTA home buyers in an already hot market. Tally Ricci with more on that.
So it's a detached house in the Chaplin Estates.
Another day, another showing. Even though interest rates held steady today, Toronto homebuyers are still feeling the pressure.
A little bit stressful because you feel like perhaps like now is the time to be proactive and you want to be sure that you want to make the right decision, especially it's your first time home.
Investors anticipate there could still be at least 6 rate hikes this year, and that's pushing potential buyers to feel like they should lock down a mortgage fast.
If they go up a lot and over a point, that's when you're going to see some tightening and some pressure come in.
But for now, this real estate broker doesn't believe Toronto's hot market will be cooling down anytime soon. He says clients are mostly concerned about a lack of options.
The reality is that there's not enough supply out there. You're looking to purchase a home right now, there's basically nothing for sale.
Those individuals that are on the margin of affordability as we move forward through the year may be impacted by higher borrowing costs. It remains to be seen. The demand for ownership housing in the Greater Toronto Area is going to remain strong in 2022. I mean, we expect to see, record or near record levels of immigration into our region.
Interest rates haven't gone up since October 2018. One broker says people have become used to that, and when they do go up, it'll affect a lot of households.
Do you understand that a home equity line of credit is tied to a prime rate, but when it stays down for so long, matter of fact, it went down. It's gone down. It's only gone down since 2018. So it's going to be a shock to some people.
So come on in.
8 months into her search, Caroline Corcus says she's lowered her expectations and set herself a deadline.
Hopefully by the spring or summer and not leave it too long.
Because otherwise, she worries.
This won't be affordable and it's not going to be a suitable home for myself.
A feeling shared by many trying to navigate one of the country's most expensive housing markets. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, another extremely cold one out there tonight.
Thanks, Kelda. Well, boy, after a very cold start to the day, the temperature is well below seasonal for our daytime highs. If you have a look, in many cases, these are closer to what should be a seasonal low at this time of year. But hey, we had some sunshine early, very stubborn, that snowfall coming in off the lake there towards Grimsby early in the day. And then those winter weather travel advisories followed it as it came around towards the city and then stretching over towards the east end. So that's kind of calmed down. Our winds are going to be stronger, though, but actually coming from the southwest as we head into Thursday. A lot of cloud cover coming through close to the lakeshore again early in the day, and even through the overnight hours could still have a few spots seeing some light snow coming down there, but very close to the lakeshore. Otherwise, as we get that cloud deck coming in, we'll see temperatures come up a little bit tomorrow, but then this is going to be a cold front. Once it passes through, it brings flurry activity, maybe even a dusting to a centimeter or two late day on Thursday, and then we get into clearing and colder air. But I'll tell you about that coming up. Tonight, -14. The high tomorrow, Kelda, -4.
Thanks so much, Colette. You're looking at a massive snow pile at the city's dump in the Portlands. Lines of trucks can be seen offloading the snow today with their heavy machinery, making many piles as the city works to clear all the streets. This, of course, after that major snowstorm we had last week with some more snow added this week. The city says crews are continuing to work 24/7. Anyone who feels their street has been overlooked should call 311. A Toronto restaurant owner is back in business tonight after literally being buried under last week's snowstorm. The covered patio at Barrio collapsed under the weight of all the snow, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damage. Greg Ross has the story.
Well, obviously,
Howard Welsh is a co-owner of Barrio Mexican Restaurant on Queen Street East. Their patio was one of the casualties of last week's winter storm.
So hopefully get some business tonight. When I got here, all the tents had already collapsed, right? We had like up to the knees, right, of snow. We couldn't even walk through it.
The 60 centimeters of snow that hit Toronto last week was too much for the tent that covers Barrio's patio. It all came crashing down, damaging almost everything below.
Tables, heaters, chairs, obviously, all the fixtures, plants, everything, right?
Welsh says in all there was nearly $30,000 worth of damage. Not to mention all of the business lost having to close the patio all of last week, which is the only place he could entertain customers under the current COVID restrictions.
But you need this? Yes. Well, we need this, of course, right, because that's the only income we actually have right now. At least pay the bills, right? We got to pay the bills of that, yeah.
In just over a week, Barrio's patio went from this to this. Word that Barrio's patio is reopening tonight was welcomed by many who live in the neighborhood.
Oh, awesome. That's great news. We live just, 5 minutes away, just on the east end. So it's actually one of the, hanging out spots.
It's helping people with their mental health and to, try to stay connected and just get out of their house in a safe way.
Welsh says they may not have been able to get back on their feet so quickly if not for help from the community.
Customers called to make a reservation and they know what happened. They actually asking if we need some help to come and shovel or anything.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Peel police have arrested a 17-year-old boy in relation to a fatal stabbing in Mississauga last night. They say it was an unprovoked attack on an innocent victim. It happened just after 6:30 in the area of Erin Mills Parkway and Fowler Drive. 41-year-old Mississauga man Mohammed Ahmed was killed. The 17-year-old has been charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. He's set to appear in court for a bail hearing tomorrow. Pride Toronto is under fire tonight. It has to do with several federal grants it accepted a couple of years ago and allegations of mismanagement. Our Chris Glover takes a deeper look.
Cree artist Kent Monkman has amassed a large following, and in 2018, Pride Toronto used a partnership with him as part of an application process for 3 federal grants totaling $1.85 million.
Although they received those grants, those projects as proposed were never actually implemented.
Historian and equity studies prof at York University Tom Hooper launched Freedom of Information requests and dug into public records. He found seemingly doctored letters of support for Pride. CBC Toronto has confirmed with the Assembly of First Nations and the 519 Resource Centre, letters from Pride's grant application process appearing to be from them are false.
We also reference some of the
Plus, Kent Monkman tells CBC he walked away from talks with Pride in April 2019, even as Pride continued to promote his involvement. In a statement to CBC, Monkman wrote, "I was extremely disappointed to hear the allegations that funds earmarked for representation and celebration of Two-Spirit and Indigenous queer people in our histories have been mismanaged."
The things that I have found, I believe, are quite serious, not only in terms of the treatment of Indigenous artists and groups, but I'm talking financial issues.
We're governed by certain laws and certain principles. So it was rather disturbing for me finding out about the different allegations.
Pride's new executive director says he's already developed more than 50 new policies, including hiring a grant manager. Plus, he hired KPMG for a third-party review, but it won't be ready for Pride's annual general meeting tonight.
The annual report that we're supposed to approve tonight brags of Pride having consecutive surplus in their budget. So we're supposed to endorse that annual report on this shroud of mystery that we have to wait for KPMG to get the answers for. I'm sorry, that's just not good enough.
Why not postpone tonight's meeting until that report was complete?
We felt that, you know what, why wait for the report? We need to be able to continue. So the work of the organization continues.
Pride is committed to making the review public, but regardless, Hooper is already shaken to have learned this could have happened at a festival that has brought liberation to him and countless others.
And for this to be the behavior that's been going on behind the scenes is such a deep betrayal of those experiences and of that connection to Pride.
He says he won't sleep until he knows exactly what happened, so no other Pride festival sees allegations like this again. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Partly cloudy tonight, some flurries earlier, but things have since settled down. The chill is sticking around though, currently feeling close to -20. All right, let's go back to Colette now. And Colette, I think it's safe to say many of us hoping for some milder temperatures on the horizon.
Thanks, Kelda. You know, we've certainly seen our share of cold air with all these extreme cold warnings that have been in place. Thought we'd take a little look ahead because for those who find it too cold, there is some light at the end of the tunnel or some warmth. But let's take you through because in the short term, it's not there so much as it is as we get into next week. Just check out the colors, the contours here. Coldest air, the purples and those blues, and warmer, milder, the greens and the yellows. So as we go into tomorrow, we do see things coming up at least a bit from where they were today. However, this cold front is going to drop through, and it does mean that as we go into Friday, we're going to see the colder temperatures and into Saturday as well. Now, that starts to recede by Sunday, just a little bit. Into Monday, though, it's more significant. You can see those darker greens starting to push northward. So that's really where it is, although there's a slight bump up for us for tomorrow. Just having a look and stopping this tomorrow morning because along the lakeshore, again, very close to the lakeshore, but towards the east end, over towards Clarington, Pickering to Clarington, could still see some of that light snowfall, but at times it comes in a little heavier, although it's short-lived, and visibility gets reduced. So watch out for that. Otherwise, we have the cloudy conditions, and later in the day is when the cold front will come through. So first it will bring the flurries to some light snow, a centimeter or two, although that's enhanced into the snow belt. But for the city and around the Golden Horseshoe, that's about all we would see from this, and that'll be later on. For the city, it's likely going to be towards the end of that evening commute before we see more activity. The winds, will be checking those out because coming from the southwest and becoming a little gusty at times through the day. So even though the temperature comes up, then the wind chill kind of knocks it back in terms of how things feel. Tonight, your temperature story -15 in southwestern Ontario, -4 to -6 for those daytime highs tomorrow, also with some flurry activity. Tonight, these numbers at least are better than they were last night. And for tomorrow, you can see those temperatures, certainly better than seeing a low of -9 and -10. But if you look through the sunshine after Saturday, yes, some flurry Sunday, but Monday, that's when the temperatures will start to come up, and even more so, Kelda, into Tuesday.
Glad to hear. Thanks so much. Finally tonight, Canadian War veteran Fred Arsenault has died. You may remember his modest request for 100 birthday cards on his 100th birthday at the start of the pandemic. The requests went viral, making international headlines and turned Arsenault into a good news sensation at a time when things were pretty grim. As for the cards, the turnout far exceeded the request. By the time of his centennial, Fred has received over 100,000 of them. The Royal Canadian Legion says while Arsenault's story may have made people smile, it also made a real impact.
Absolutely impactful. It reminded every Canadian, every veteran, how important they are in society and how we embrace them. It was just a link across countries, as far as I'm concerned, a way to thank any and all veterans for the sacrifices they've made.
Arsenault, a veteran of the Second World War, was part of the Cape Breton Highlanders and fought in battles in Italy, Holland, and Germany. He passed away on Sunday, just shy of his 102nd birthday. His son says he still receives cards from time to time, proof that Fred's legacy lives on. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can get caught up on our website anytime. Just head to cbc.ca/Toronto. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.